Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you another video. Alright, so tried to go to the Taco Bell, use the restroom. Dude told me it's only for customers. That's your karma, sir. You're gonna wish you didn't do that. I didn't give him no energy at all. I said, okay, thank you, and I walked out. Why? Because when you get to a certain point in your life where you know people pay for what they do, you don't get mad at them no more. You just feel bad for them because you know what's coming. You know what's coming. It's not even about, oh, let me give him energy. Nah, I won that battle. Walking out of there without giving you any bad energy is me winning that battle. I can go to another bathroom. But you turning away a man of God when he needs to use the restroom because he won't eat the poison that you're selling? Well, my friend, I tell you the truth. That's something you're going to have to deal with him. So that's what I told him. You know, that's exactly what I'm saying to all of you. Taco Bell on Lancashire, if you're not willing to buy some of that poison that they're selling that's meant to make you fat and ultimately sit you on the toilet for a long time, they ain't gonna let you relieve yourself no matter how bad you gotta go. They're not gonna do it. You got to eat their poison to use their toilet. And me personally, I'm not eating that. I'm not eating that. So I'll walk somewhere else where they don't have those type of contingencies upon people. It ain't like I look homeless or anything. He's just being evil. And so that's on him. That's his karma, man. Just gotta tell people, hey, yo, you do what you do. I can't help you. I gave you opportunity to be a blessing to somebody. You turned it away. Now what comes next? I don't need to even hear about it. I don't even need to hear about it. Just know that you're gonna pay for that. Just know. So that's pretty much what I gotta say about that, man. Almost at the train station. You know, gotta be careful how you treat people, man. You don't know what energy people are walking in with. You don't know. Sometimes they walk in with godly energy like what I'm walking in with. Other times they're gonna walk in with a different type of energy and you have to deal with that. But one thing's for certain, if you treat people worse, or if you take away a blessing from somebody, or take away a simple convenience you can provide with your grace, believe me, it's gonna be worse for you. It's gonna be worse for you. So a lot of people don't believe in that. That's fine. You're gonna test that theory, you're gonna find out the hard way. It's that simple. It's gonna be a lot of people who don't want you to believe in karma. In a lot of cases, they either don't believe in it or want you to face the worst of it. Whatever the case may be, don't. Simply put, don't play with karma. Don't do it. Take that from somebody who's been bitten by it many times. Only people who don't believe in karma is people who don't believe and people who want you to suffer it. That is it. Agents of demonic energy exist, man. That's what we were talking about in the last video. The people who are dressed up as clergy people and people of God and people supposed to be helping people, but they make it seem like if you don't climb a mountain with absolute ease in regards to whatever your struggle is, then you're going to be hit with the wrath of God. No. God knows you want to resist what it is you struggle with. He ain't going to hit you with wrath for engaging in that struggle. He's not. It's when you stop struggling. It's when you don't care to change your ways. It's when you don't care about making him angry. It's when he feels it's necessary to strike you. It's not when you trying. It's not when you saying, oh God, please help me stop, and you having a hard time with that. Those are not the people he's angry with. He wants you to win those battles. You may still have to pay for the suffering that you engage in, or rather the suffering you impose upon others of what it is you do. That doesn't absolve you from having the blowback from your behavior, but it does speak to you eventually being able to overcome that behavior, so long as you keep the intent to change in your heart and in your mind and in your practices. The intent to make it a struggle by having some resistance for what it is that you otherwise need to stop doing. Don't give up the desire to change for the better. That's what I'm saying to you. As if you do, that's when you start facing the wrath that they're talking about. There's two people gonna face the wrath. Them for making you feel that way, and for trying to coerce you away from hope, and you for not engaging in a resistance that would otherwise, at the very least, want to be better. And those are two people God angry with. The ones who don't try and those who try to coerce people not to have any hope. They face wrath. Remember that too. It's going to be them that face the wrath. When they sitting there telling you, you had better stop cold turkey or God's going to strike you. That for which they've done is something that God strikes. That is what he don't like. So that's basically what the last video was about, man. I know that. I've known that my whole life, man. That's why I don't try to deter people, man. I may be a little frustrated with what you do or whatever. But it's not ever right for me to tell you, you better stop now. And especially if people are addicted to certain things and all that. You better stop now. And you better want to stop now. And I'd better tell you that stopping now is the best course for everybody. And that should be something that you should really, really want for yourself. Otherwise, I'm doing it wrong. It's not always what you say, it's how you say it sometimes. Etc. So, yeah, man, I still got to use the restroom, but not nearly as bad as that guy's going to need relief from whatever the hell kind of energy he just engaged in and turning me away from the restroom. That's the key. That is key to that. Because he took a great deal of happiness in telling me no. I can see it in his face, and that's on him, man. Maybe he doesn't like black folks. Maybe he just looks at everybody who comes in there who ain't patronizing him as somebody who's going to risk his job or whatever. But maybe he thinks I'm a homeless person or what have you. He's going to go in there and tear things up, although I don't look that way at all. But, you know, point is, by way of what it is that he does to make a living, he's trying to funnel stuff to me that's ultimately going to kill me if I eat it too much. And so he's an enemy off the strength of that. I'm just telling y'all the truth, man. Now stop letting, by way of the money that you have to make a way for yourself, coerce you into funneling poison to others. Drug sellers to fast food workers. It's poison to the community. However you look at it, it's poison to the community. Now, if we don't define it as poison to the community, then we're mistaken. But when you look at how people define certain things to justify certain things, like, for example, selective humanity, like it's only evil if they do it to me, it ain't evil if I do it to them type stuff, then you understand that there's no thin line at all there. It's the same thing. You improperly defining something that's bad for the people does not make it any better for the people. Me improperly defining what a person is does not absolve me from not treating them horribly. If I say they're not a person, they're still a person. And I saw something today that was interesting to me. And it's going around, it's viral, everybody's posting it. It's a white dude, probably about 28, 27 years old, on a platform with a black lady. I don't know what this platform is. But essentially they're having an argument about slavery, and slavery in his mind is equivalent, or is a loose equivalent to being drafted into the army, because once you're drafted to the army, you're killed and you don't have no choice, you don't have no control over your body. That's a loose way of defining slavery. Very, 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 very loose. Very, very, very. It doesn't take into account a lot of different things that come along with slavery as it pertains to what it is that African Americans went through. He's equating it to not having control over yourself and thus being coerced into death, which is one aspect of it. But it doesn't take into account the psychological damage that's done in regards to slavery, the overall methods from which terror was applied to the minds of those who were enslaved over the course of 400 years. And this is where I think his education failed him. I can get mad at him for being ignorant, but ignorance is not something to necessarily be mad at. It's something to understand has been coercing people for years away from the true context of what it is that they'd otherwise be talking about. They've made it a point, and I say they meaning white supremacy, has made it a point to try to erase black history, African history, and otherwise coerce us into thinking that various aspects of history are not necessary because of whom was hurt, selective humanity, because of whom was done what to, and how they don't want to ultimately have to pay reparations for it, or even have to justify their behavior behind treating people a certain way, even now, as they go about their selective humanity practices. As to say, slavery wasn't that bad. It's just, slavery was simply the same thing as not having control of your body in any situation. It's somebody funneling you toward what would otherwise be possible death. Not taking into account the details of what American slavery specifically actually was. Not because he couldn't compare the two if he did know, but because that information has been brushed aside from him as he grew up the course of his life. The painted picture of what slavery actually was not given to him in a way that it actually was. They gave him the watered down, simple version of slavery, as to say his wonderful grandparents and great grandparents happened to have individuals in positions to work the fields, and maybe it was uncomfortable, but otherwise it was doable. His version of slavery is so much kinder than what it was. So he can bring false equivalence to the situation and not understand why he's offensive to people he's speaking to. And this is what they're trying to do. They want to remove all of that from the history books, paint Christopher Columbus to be a great guy, and all these various different things that whitewash history in such a way that dumbs down the terror that they've engaged in throughout the course of the process of being selective in their humanity. As to say, we're nice guys, so whatever we did that was bad to others, we should just be forgiven, and whatever was wrong, we're sorry, but not that sorry, because we don't have to be that sorry because it wasn't that bad. And that's how they move, and it's like, and we continue to let them do that by removing certain things from history, removing certain things from the curriculum, and ultimately allowing their kids to grow up thinking that slavery is the same thing as being drafted to the army. It's like, bro, if you knew anything about slavery, you wouldn't even bring that equivalent up. You sounds crazy doing that. But when you only give people certain parts of the truth, then of course they're gonna bring up those false equivalences and not thinking nothing of it. Like, of course, I mean, clearly I go to the army and I don't want to be, therefore I'm a slave because they, it's like, that's not what slavery was, bro. That's not what slavery was. And now you look like you're omitting history when actually you were depraved of it. When you look at his age and you look at the understanding of what history was as it pertains to the curriculum that's been given to these kids over the last 30 years, you know they didn't tell these kids what slavery really was. In fact, they've done a whole lot to keep from having to tell these kids what slavery was, because if they did, then a lot of these kids would be willing to give up a lot to make it right. And they don't want that. They don't want people to know how bad their grandparents and great-grandparents, they don't want these people to know just how wrong selective humanity is, because once you start digging into the hypocrisy of it, it falls apart. It starts falling apart. It's a primitive way of doing things that a lot of people have evolved through. So if they knew the truth about it, they would try to make it right. Thus throwing away a lot of what was set up in position for them to have the game rigged for themselves. I can't have my great-grandson giving up all my damn money, giving up all my damn property because of something that I did to get this property, having them undo all these years of rigging the game. Can't let that happen. So we can't let them know the history. If we do give them the history, we got to mold it in such a way for them to palate it in such a way to still uphold us as true. So white supremacy do. And so as I tell you all, man, I don't look at that kid as he's the worst guy in the world. He just needs to learn something. He needs to know the history that's been depraved of him. He needs to know that the people he trusted to give him that history had an agenda that didn't mean for the benefit of him or anybody else, just the upholding of what it is that they rigged against everybody else. That's all it is. They want to continue to do things the same way, and they know the world is changing in such a way they ain't gonna allow it. And information is coming way too fast in this internet. So it's like all that stuff they were able to do with the propaganda and all that. Now you just got people coming from all directions saying, yo, that's propaganda. Yo, that is brainwashing. Yo, that is bullcrap. Yo, that's a flat out lie. And so they didn't have to deal with all that. When the only thing you were listening to was the radio, seeing the news. Now you got a million different people giving you the news on the ground for you to see in the moment. The hypocrisy falls apart. So he gonna come up when he learns soon enough, just like so many will, to understand what slavery actually was, to know of black skin boots and all different types of things, and all these different contraptions they used to torture black people, and all the different rapes and all these different things that they omit from the history books because they don't want their kids to know this stuff. They don't want you to know how bad they did us and for how long that actually was. They make you think slavery is equivalent to somebody else's troubles. With all due respect, ain't nobody going through no 400 years of that embedded torture. How do you think they mastered the stuff they doing to the people of Gaza? They tried it on us. BDF 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.